So what are textures good for? So your next assignment, you're going to be using texturing in a relatively simple way, but we're going to talk about textures more generally today. So textures you can think of as two-dimensional images, which you're going to use to wrap onto your objects, right? They're essentially the color wrapping on the outside. So they can be used to put colored patterns on the ball, to put the wood grain on the floor, these kinds of things. But there's other uses that we can put textures to. So we could, rather than just color, we could talk about a variety of material properties. So here on the skin, there's something about the shininess. We haven't talked about lighting yet and what makes things look shiny, but rather than just the color, we could talk about the properties that make it shiny, and we could try to apply that with the texture. So this example is coming from some paper where they were saying, they have a color texture, but then later they have some scratches and they have other things applied onto the surface. So here's an example from when I was a student in 1993. The assignment in class, we weren't told to make a blocky animal, but we were told to make a realistic object. Being a very lazy student, people were modeling all kinds of things with hundreds of different polygons in them, right? And trying to make lots of pieces like some of you did for your blocky animal. And I thought, what is the simplest object that I can make so that I can pass this darn class without having to do extra work? So I'm like, a credit card, flat, two triangles. In fact, we had quads in those days. So in fact, it wasn't even two triangles, it was one quad. I figured I couldn't get any easier than that. But I applied texture. So this is the texture for the color. This is the texture for the bumpiness. So these are the parts of the card that are supposed to look like they're bumped, right? So this was applied to a bump now. And this is the part that's supposed to be shiny. And this is the part that's supposed to look like it has scratches on it. And then you combine these different textures and you get a moderately realistic looking graphics thing. Was that my real credit card? I swapped around the numbers. But that would be a sly way to try to get extra credit, huh? Like here's my credit card. I need a grade. No, these numbers were swapped around in this. I had multiple people send me email after this got posted on a website saying you shouldn't post your credit card. No, I wasn't that stupid. Anyway, the point being, yeah, right, the extra credit card. This was, you just apply some textures and you have a very simple surface and you have things that look nicer. This is what we use texture for, to make things look nicer. So not just color, we could use it on the lighting. We haven't talked about lighting yet, but we could have lighting maps and then use those lighting maps to try to make more complicated things. And we could have light maps which are pre-calculated and stored with the surface. So this is a rendered model. And then there's a calculation done to figure out where there's crevices and to make it look darker in the crevices. And that's pre-calculated and then applied with a texture map onto this. Right, so here's what the texture map looks like. So we could have things other than just color stored in these textures.